Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. So John's report is for the 23rd, and as expected, we came right to the 76%, dipped slightly below it, and of course, then the buyers came in, and of course, that's represented here with that discussion we had about the DOC steel moving back up above. Interestingly enough, though, you finally do have on at least the daily cyan breaching the red, but that rising gold is enough to really want to push things back towards the 100% move. It's just going to be a question of if you get enough of a reset here from the DOC green and that short-term buyers. It's enough to propel things a little bit, but it could be a little bit tougher to go. The fact that we're seeing a little bit more of a NBI white short increase up to 9, it's right in the range where shorts are starting to get active. So that could be the next fuel to push things. We'll see if we're able to see white move up closer to the NBI magenta, but it does express some weakness at this particular stage. But not surprising to see that bounce back and force the NQ much stronger, and that significance shows you the disparity between the two, much stronger and likely to significantly hold its position. So with that dichotomy, I would expect that things still hold up. From a treasury standpoint, of course, this was obvious. All that money being bid into it, ridiculous given where rates are and not changing. So, sure enough, fades back down towards a little bit higher yield. These things are very predictable. The oil dip, nice, putting it in the lower side of the range. And again, um, it was interesting because in the Fed comments, in the discussion where they were talking about even the Bank of England, uh, some of the dissent that they had with their rate increase that they did was oil prices and the fact that it needed more time for that to cycle through the economy, that could be deflationary enough uh, to halt inflation to a significant degree, because again, we know that commodity prices and that tend to push those kinds of things through the roof. You make it easier for business and take away some of that added expense of fuel, and that it makes a huge difference, significant. And of course, a little softening back in the euro, still way overvalued for where the eurozone is. It's not even a question. Gold making new lows in there, and still white NBI leading that, and not a whole lot of interest. Um, Simply because you're not seeing that pressure now. Should there be a change in oil or something like that, you'll get a dramatic move. But bifurcating from what we're seeing in the crypto space, and we talked about why. Um, there's just definitely a move towards that. Interestingly enough, though, you get this calculation with the Bitcoin, and that at a similar time where you hear more talk about a global uh, digital currency, and how that would play into things is going to be an interesting one as it unfolds, because there's a lot of resistance to that. But if you're able to take over what people think is the independent space, does the same thing. And you can see that ETH is well behind where Bitcoin is performing, and no shock with that. From a 50K standpoint, it was just a matter of the magenta moving back above. We'd already had that move back to the 0%, and then it started to catch strength in there, and it's been significant enough to hold it from an intraday standpoint. Um, Most of that strength took place towards the end of the day, as we saw at the start. Rolling back here, we had that breakdown that was the pre-market, and then by the time we got to the actual regular open, there was a lot more interest in buying from that dip, and it just became a steady stair rise right back up to the peaks. So I think all doing exactly as expected. So no real shocks in any of this particular stage, and I think the market is still going to continue to move against the flow. And as soon as people are feeling things are too high, you're going to mean revert back to the other side. And when things get where they think it's about to flip the other direction, yeah, and you move back up. It's classic, and I think very healthy from that standpoint. So, all, all in all, I think it's good action, and just continuing to follow the readings and be just fine. As always, though, trade well. You can look for me on Skype chat.